AKA your foot, since there's not a lot of shoe.
Okay, here we go. Thank you all for coming to our new knowledge today, and thank you all who are online. We understand here at the incubator that we have lots of online viewers, and that is kind of what our program is about today, is marketing to millennials who are technology, can I say geeks? Technology savvy people, that's right. So today from the High Road Agency, we have Kyle Wyrick.
That's right.
We have Sarah Mast. We have Katie Westbrooks, and we have Jason Alexander. They're going to do a little presentation, and then after the presentation is over, they are actually going to sit down and do a Q&A. So those of you online, please submit your questions, and Sandy will ask those questions during the Q&A. And those of you in the room, thank you for coming. And without further ado, the High Road Agency.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thanks for coming. We're going to start just by introducing ourselves, and then we'd like to know a little bit more about you. I'm Kyle Wyrick. I'm a partner success manager with High Road Agency. Been with the company for about 4.5 years. So I did operations and digital production for many years, and then switched into a sales role.
I'm Jason Alexander. I'm a design strategist, do graphic design work. I've been with the High Road for, I think, 3 months now.
I'm Katie Westbrooks. I'm the art director. I've been with the High Road Agency for about 3 years. I also do graphic design work as well.
I'm Sarah Mast. I'm an interactive design specialist at High Road. I've been with High Road for about 3.5 years.
Right. So we'd like to hear from you, just so for a frame of reference, your name and what business you're in. We'll start here.
Victoria Flasher. I'm located right here at the incubator. I own Hook Books Publishing.
Okay.
So I get books prepared and ready for publishing for other authors.
Gotcha. Okay.
My name is Dan Swanson. I'm a regional manager with the Regional Home Energy Efficiency Improvement Company.
Okay.
I'm Jamie Arnold. I'm in sales over here at the Comprise Hotel in Athens.
Angela Swetkowski. I work for Old Navy University.
Okay.
Nina Farmer with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce.
Samantha Tanner with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Good cross section.
Wait.
Oh, sorry, I saw your headphones. I didn't know you were listening.
Anytime that's a promo, I'm Sandy Ratliff. I'm with Virginia Community Capital.
Okay. Great. So we're going to start, obviously, our presentation is about marketing to millennials, and the first thing we have to do is define what a millennial is. So, what do you think? What defines a millennial? There's only one answer. One right answer.
Young.
Okay? We hear a lot of answers, but I'd like to hear some more from you guys.
Very computer savvy.
Okay? So those are some common traits that often are associated with millennial, but the true definition of a millennial is just the same as it is for a baby boomer or for a Generation X. It's really just based on a date range of birth dates. The millennials are from 1981 to 1996. Put that into perspective, it's 28 to 38 25 to 38 year olds.
23 to 30.
Can I do math today? 23 to 38 year olds. So when you say young, maybe, but there's 2 generations younger than millennials are. So let's talk about those 2 years, just to give you an idea of the millennial start and finish years, 1981 to 96. So in 1981, the average cost of a new home was $78,000, and in 96, it was $118,000. The average household income in 1981 was $21,000, and in 96, it was $36,000. So you can see how things progressed, at least on the financial side. In 1981, Charles and Diana got married. In 1996, they got divorced. They bookended our generation with their with their matrimony. There you go. A few other comparisons. In 1981, that was when the space shuttle program started with Columbia out of Cape Canaveral. The president was Ronald Reagan. Raiders of the Lost Ark premiered in theaters. It's now on Netflix. My kid loved it. Post-it notes was launched by 3M. And the term internet was first mentioned. So it really was the first generation with the internet as a household device.
So in 1996, DVDs first launched in Japan. Bill Clinton was elected the president. Independence Day, Twister, and Mission Impossible were released. Dolly the sheep was cloned. Does everybody remember Dolly the sheep? And the Summer Olympics were in Atlanta.
I remember that.
So different things that weren't around when millennials were born. Harry Potter. Skype, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, all of those things you kind of associated with millennial generation and the social aspects of us being on these platforms. They weren't even around. USB flash drives. Remember carrying around floppy disks? Furby. I think we all could have done without her. PlayStation 2 and Xbox. So we're going to talk about a few different statistics.
Just so you know, all 4 of us up here fall into that millennial generation. Obviously, on very opposite ends of it, but all 4 of us are technically millennials. So whether you approve of the millennial generation or not, it is a crowd that you have to market to, and I have some statistics to explain why. Millennials comprise 25% of the U.S. population. These figures are about 2 years old, so that some of them may have changed just a little. But that's 77 million people, and they currently make up almost 50% of the job market. Almost 50% of the workers currently are millennials. They have multiple trillions of dollars in buying power. 3.4 trillion actually in 2019. Millennials account for 30% of retail sales. 15% of millennials use smartphones to make purchases multiple times a week. They make 54% of their purchases online. That number is continuing to grow. Millennials spend about 25 hours a week online. 62% say that if a brand engages with them on social media, they're more likely to become a loyal customer. We can provide all these statistics as well.
I know an example of a brand that interacted with me. At one point, I tweeted something about, I wish that we still did mixtapes, but a playlist would do. And so Spotify actually responded to me with a playlist that they created, and out of the names of the songs, it wrote a message to me, like, Katie, you're beautiful, thanks for listening, something like that. And it was just really cool because I didn't even mention them or anything. I just said playlist, and they reached out to me. And really, like, I am a Spotify customer now. I really continue using them because they made that connection.
And just sounds like you're a brand ambassador for them too because it's memorable. 33% of millennials rely on blogs before making a purchase, and we'll talk more about that soon. 75% say it's fairly or very important that a company gives to society instead of just making a profit. This one's good. Only 6% consider online advertising to be credible. 84% don't trust traditional advertising. 95% believe friends are the most credible source of a product or brand information. So a lot of referral marketing. We'll talk about that too. 51% say that being able to see consumer opinions has a great impact on their purchasing decisions. 90% of millennials use coupons. I use coupons. And 78% would choose to spend money on a desirable experience over buying something. 78% would choose to spend money on a desirable experience as opposed to just buying something that is desirable. We're about creating, sharing, and capturing memories. So using those statistics, we boiled down to 5 strategies, effective strategies for marketing to our generation. By the way, ways to contact millennials, don't call us. We don't talk on the phone. The phone is just a device to access the internet. So let's talk about the 5 strategies for marketing to millennials. Oh, I'm good. Saving. Okay, millennials on average earn at this point 20% less than their parents did at the same age. So adjusted for inflation, millennials are making less than their parents. Also, in general, we own less property as a whole, and so we're focused on saving to combat our lower income. So there we go. So some keys to success here. You'll find some success and convert more leads when your ads speak to the millennials' desire to save. So use keywords and evoke feelings of financial security, responsibility, and self-reliance. Those are more likely to do better with millennial. Overall, we're not interested in accumulating stuff for the sake of doing so. We're more interested, again, in those desirable experiences, which we'll talk about later as well. A good example of this, I don't know, does anybody use the app called Acorns or Robinhood? I love Acorns. It's an app that automatically rounds up every purchase I make and then puts that extra change into a savings account that's invested in the stock market. I use it for my vacation fund, but their advertising is really all about financial security and self-reliance, all of these feelings that we talk about. So they're focused on that millennial generation of making it really easy to save to combat that lower income issue.
Millennials research before buying. I can attest to this. We like to look at reviews, blogs, articles, things like that to know about the company, but also the items we are going to purchase. As a whole, we're not impulse buyers. We're not just going to go out, for the most part, and say, oh, that looks cute, or that looks fun, I'm going to buy that. Kind of the key to success for any company when you're looking at this side of things is to have resources for millennials to use to research you. They're looking for confidence in the retailer, brand values, but also a way to compare prices. My personal example of this would be REI, Recreational Equipment Inc., if you haven't heard of them. It's a big outdoor retail store. I worked for them for a little while, so I can attest that just going in and talking to someone is a good way to do research with them. But on their website, they have blogs, all kinds of articles, reviews, anything you could ever want to buy a product of theirs. Any sort of information on it is available at your fingertips with a cell phone.
So to be successful with research, use call to actions like learn more rather than buy now, and give more information to your consumers. If you put buy now as your call to action, and your millennial consumer is not ready to buy, then they may not click at all, and so you don't even get that traffic or that hit to your site where they can find out that research and more information. Alternatively, they're just going to end up researching it elsewhere, which could be a positive or negative review.
Internet bias.
And they could buy it elsewhere. And also write blogs. Blogs are a thing that just end up being annoying and take a lot of time. But if you're blogging about your own products and services and you're able to self-promote, then use that as an educational resource for those researchers.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about recommendations within a network. Looking to friends, family, and network for advice. A lot of us reach out and we'll get recommendations to buy products, to go on experiences from people we know that have experienced or bought these products. It's kind of just like having that connection and knowing that you will enjoy this experience or product. Incorporate referral marketing. There's a lot of brands out there where if you refer their product or experience to someone else, you get a discount on a future product or experience. This tends to work very well in a lot of marketing strategies for millennials. And referrals are actually 4 times more likely to generate sales based on statistics. Some keys to success for this is to connect with brand ambassadors. I actually am a brand ambassador for a outdoor recreation who makes hammocks. And so they contacted me. I have not actually done any of the ambassador work yet, but you get a lot of discounts, free items, and then I ended up purchasing more than I was really intending to have this inventory for, to be this ambassador. It's Madeira Outdoor. And then also request reviews and referrals from your customers to have on your site to share, just like Kyle and Jason were just talking about, for people to read about your product or experience.
So remember that only 6% of millennials consider online advertising to be credible, and 84% don't trust traditional advertising. It's because millennials as a whole are looking to their friends, looking to family, looking to outside sources that aren't going to be biased. So encourage referrals and reviews, incentivize referrals and reviews as allowed by the platform that you're on.
Another example of that is a lot of local businesses or small businesses will encourage their purchasers or consumers to share images of their products. One great example for me is I love the Millie Truck food truck that's now in Irwin, and I would take a lot of pictures of their food and post it, and they would use my images to share on their platforms and tend to give the consumer some free items. So every once in a while I'd get like a free lunch for taking some photos or sharing their product. Our next topic is health and environmental issues. Companies are becoming more transparent, and the millennials are really asking and are more intrigued about this information. Just with the health and environmental crisis we are kind of in, most recently Japan stopping us no longer purchasing our plastics, and we need to try and figure out a way to find a place to get rid of this plastic or eliminate plastic use. Talking about impacting products on the environment, health and wellness food market is expected to be 1.1 trillion by this year. A lot of millennials are looking for that healthier product. They're going to the Trader Joe's, the Aldi's, who are carrying these products and who are sharing that they have these products in stock. Some keys to success. In your advertising, you want to focus on keywords if you have products that link towards this topic. About health, natural, and organic is that.
So millennials are driving this in the marketplace. This $1.1 trillion is a huge growth. It's being driven by an overall desire to be more healthy and for organic foods and natural foods. Millennials want to know what's in their food. They want to know where it came from. They're more interested in health-conscious initiatives and environmental issues.
And next we're going to talk about how millennials prefer experiences over physical products. Unlike their parents, millennials see shopping as more of a social activity than an errand. It's about getting out there, spending time with your friends, going and experiencing these different stores, which eventually could really make you purchase more products because you're there just for fun and then you see more things. When shopping online, they're interested in the user experience more than buying products. So you really want to know what this product will do for you and how your experience is going to greater their life and make a change for them instead of just buying all products. 78% prefer to spend money on experiences over physical goods. I recently just got back from London, and so my sister was purchasing all of these different trinkets and stuff around the city, and I was spending more money on getting into the different museums or getting into different attractions because the experience of it was way more important to me than coming home with a t-shirt or a pin or something like that. And so really like pushing your experience of your product and of your store is really important. So you want to position your ads and social media content to focus on the experience of using your products rather than just the products themselves. A company that does that really well is Apple. Instead of just pushing their product on you, they really show how it's applicable within your life and you know how it really impacts you that way.
I saw an example this morning, Casper, a mattress company. I don't know if you've seen it. They carry the box around and it quiets the whole house down. And it has nothing to do with the mattress itself. It has to do with the experience of being able to sleep well. Most of the big brands are doing this really, really well. And this is really key to millennial marketing. So a few other keys that didn't fall into those 5. Make sure your product is Instagram worthy. We're looking for brand education via social media. Sarah is a very heavy Instagram user. We talked about that on the way here. Very visual, so find a way to make your product or service Instagram worthy.
If your image is out there and it's not eye-catching, they're just going to scroll right by it.
Authenticity is worth its weight in gold. When you're asked a question on a social media platform or through a channel on your website, give them an instant response and make sure it's honest, because the internet is the big equalizer. So if you're being dishonest in your answers, it's going to be easy to find out because of referrals and reviews and opinions that are available publicly. Your message and video, all of that needs to look real. If it looks like an ad, we'll probably skip over it because we're looking for that authenticity. And when we ask questions on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of the other platforms, we're looking for an instant response. That's why we're doing it. We don't call. We already talked about that. We don't send emails generally. We're usually on live chat or Facebook or Twitter asking those questions. And provide an interactive experience. This is that participation trophy kind of scenario that everybody thinks millennials have, which is more a Gen Z thing. But millennials drive that desire to be part of something bigger than ourselves every day. So make something interactive, make it participatory, like Sarah was talking about with the Instagram photos. Encourage people to create some of your social media content for you and share it so that we know that it's obviously making a difference, our participation.
I know today, actually, out of nowhere, one of my pictures was shared on Instagram for Racks by the Tracks Festival. I went last year, I shared a photo of my experience, and they used it today in part of their marketing and tagged me in it, gave me credit for the photo, and said, you know, it's coming up, get excited, that kind of thing. And so really pushing your experience then gets your customers to market for you.
Yeah, it also makes your job a lot easier for you because it's instant content created for you that you can then share.
I think it's really important to remember that millennials now are all adults. So there is that mindset that millennials are the ones that are still in college or now in high school. That's all Gen Z. That's a completely different presentation. The millennials are the adults that we're the ones buying things. We're the ones driving decisions. We're also the ones that will be making decisions for our parents. So when we talk about a funeral home, oh, I don't need to market to millennials because they're all young. Yes, but we're the ones that will make those decisions about end of life for our parents, for the boomers. Financial services, like we talked about, millennials are saving a whole lot more than their parents. I actually read a statistic that 1 in 6 millennials has a $100,000 net worth already. I don't, but I'd like to be. So millennials are saving 9% of their paycheck, and 19% have their retirement withholdings set to automatically increase. So don't think that financial services are just for the older people who have the money. Millennials are thinking about money very differently. So there's a place in every industry to market to millennials. And now you can ask us questions, and we're going to sit down for that. Guess we'll take this with us.
Does anybody have any questions for us?
So I do, you know, we're all in situations where with small business development, we try to help folks build their business brand by social media marketing and the use of technology. And on a regular basis, their comments would be they would like more small business social media marketing camps. That's such a broad topic that if somebody said that to you, what would you do? How would you, what kind of education would you look for to give them?
That's a great question. I think also to start, I think it's important to realize that these generations definitions are pretty broad as well. Someone born in 1981 is going to interact with the brand differently than someone born in 1996. It's just a very different culture, different decade of birth. And so we're able to subgroup the millennial generation as we move through. So I interact with social media very different than Sarah or Jason at the other end of the table because they're just they've grown up with it differently than I did. So how would you, in your area of millennial, be most effectively promoted on social?
Well, I think we've kind of hit on these some in our presentation, but really just having these eye-catching graphics and something that we can relate to. I mean, if it's really going to need to be a product or experience that relates to me for me to click on. If it's an ad, for me to click on it. Content-wise, I think it's just very important to be consistent and always have a content strategy every month, at least post every other day, so that you have content on your page and so that people are seeing it. The algorithms for all the social networks are changing every month, every week even. So it's really just important to keep your brand out there and constantly update it. Use hashtags that are relevant. Researching hashtags is a really good way to figure out which ones to include. But I think another thing to look at is my mom, who is 60 years old, I think she's on social media more than I am, scrolling through the different platforms. So I don't even know if it's really a generational thing. It's really just making sure that you are appealing to the right demographic.
I think a big thing with that too is whenever you see more of a personal experience, like a photograph that has people in it interacting or interacting with their pets or something like that, when it hits your emotions, it's going to affect the consumer a whole lot more. They're more likely to click on it and learn more about it or share it, those kind of things. When it hits you on a more personal level, then you interact more.
I think all 5 of the strategies that we talked about ultimately would play into a social media strategy as well as the overall marketing strategy. So depending on the industry, whether you're appealing to financial security and stability, or making sure that you're researchable, or promoting the experience of using the product or service. I think that's really a part of that overall social media strategy, and that's what we would suggest.
Are there apps that you particularly like to make your posts look better, or are you just doing it however? And then you said researching hashtags. Are you talking like when you do the hashtag, it pops up in the queue, you're going to choose the one that obviously has the higher following, or are you doing something else as far as research?
Well, you want to make sure that it does have a large following, but you also want it to be unique. So you want some hashtags that are unique to your own brand, and then some hashtags that are going to get awareness from a broader audience. But we personally use Adobe products, but we do have someone in our office that uses Canva to create these graphics. So I think it really just depends on what you have access to and what you feel comfortable using.
Another way for looking up hashtags is, there's national days throughout the month, like National Cookie Day and things like that, or Autism Awareness Month. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month. Knowing those different kinds of things that are coming up, and kind of hitting those and making them relevant to your product or your service, and piggybacking on that, as well as whenever you are trying to use those hashtags, those national programs will set out their specific hashtag like you would want to have for your own company. They have them as well for their special days or their months and things like that.
And what do you consider your role for hashtags? Because there's some that'll do 1 or 2 hashtags, and then some will do 20 hashtags, and you're like, really? I don't know, is that what you're supposed to do?
I think it kind of depends on your audience again, and which platform you're using. Instagram is a very hashtag, the hashtags are used all the time. And a lot of times what people will do is put their hashtags in the first comment rather than their actual body of their content, so that it doesn't overwhelm the reader. But whenever they're using those hashtags to search, it will still pop up when it's in that first comment, and you just won't get bogged down visually that way.
The other reason it's important to research your hashtag is to make sure that it's not already in use on something that doesn't align with your brand values. So some hashtags may have some sort of innuendo or connotation that's been used by another industry, and you just don't want your brand to be mixed up in that. So anytime we, as an agency, will suggest a hashtag to be used for a campaign, we always research it first to be sure that there's nothing else that has used it previously.
One example of that is we work with a nonprofit called Touch a Life, and researching some hashtags with Touch a Life and Touch a Life Kids, which is their URL, some negative things would come up with the words touch and kids. So you really just kind of have to be careful with these hashtags.
My business involves selling home improvement projects that save homeowners on their utility bills.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a bit of good news, bad news kind of message in what you're conveying. One is the good news is that millennials are very attuned to saving money. The bad news is, I guess, the home ownership level is pretty low compared to older generations. So what do you recommend I do to get the message to those who do want to save money and do own homes?
I know personally, I don't own a home currently, but I watch a lot of the DIY shows and things like that, and maybe piggybacking on some of those hashtags where people are looking up those different shows and how to fix things up, fixer-upper, those kind of things. And you could piggyback off of, all of their success and push it towards you as well.
And it sounds like some of these may be leaning towards an environmentally friendly approach as well. So I would say hitting that message hard is very important as well.
And there's lots of hashtags out there about saving the environment and those things. And so people maybe that are tweeting or putting messages out there about wanting to save the environment, or talking about the ozone, talking about those different things, using those hashtags to show, hey, I am out here trying to help too.
And I don't have the statistic about home ownership within the millennial generation. What I know is that it's lower than the percentage of the boomers and that were at the same time, same age. But 50% of this panel is our homeowners, and so there's still a market within that generation who are homeowners and who are interested in saving money, and putting those two together sounds like really where your niche market is. And the millennials are also driving the demand as far as LEED certification and energy efficiency and those pieces as far as a greater good. So when Whole Foods converts their stores all to LEED certifications, that's being driven by the millennial generation who's looking at environmental issues.
Do you have some examples of maybe some of the ads you've done in this area that were like, this is totally millennial focused, driven?
Yep, we can do that. We'll include those with all the statistics we talked about at the beginning.
I probably missed this, running in and out of the room, but did you kind of specify what generations in, like, different?
A millennial is 1981 to 1996. And so that's 23-year-olds to 38. And so it's a really wide range, and people in very different parts of their lives. And so it's a little difficult to fully niche that. So you're trying to reach a very large amount of people.
So do you think that the social media platforms have more to do with, the different social media platforms have more to do with what you're selling than your age, or is it kind of a combination?
It's definitely a combination. And keep in mind also, again, that Generation Z is running a completely different set of social media preferences than we are.
I know personally, like for Twitter, for me, I'm looking more for information and learning more about your product and learning more about your company versus buying from there. But if I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see those different things and I see the ad that tugs on my heartstrings and makes me think about, oh, that's something I need, then I'm more likely to hit a buy now button, or I'm more likely to go to that website from there versus Twitter, where I just want to keep learning more. I don't want to be bogged down with a lot of information. I want those key points.
Do you use, what do you, I don't know if you want to answer this question on video, but what do you think about some of the online sales apps like, I don't know, Etsy or eBay, or, you know, if you had a new or pretty new business and you wanted to start your business out, maybe you had a brick and mortar store but you want to do online sales, what kind of apps would you use?
I think Etsy is a great platform for e-commerce, but I think that's really what it is. It's a platform for e-commerce, and I know as a small business who's selling on Etsy, you still have the impetus to drive the traffic to your store by marketing your individual products or your overall product set on other platforms. Obviously, people will go to Etsy and search for particular things they're looking for, but I'm more likely to end up on Etsy because I saw an ad on Facebook, or somebody posted this thing they made and now they're selling it. Where are you selling it? I'm selling it on Etsy. So I end up over there.
I think, too, that this may fit this may be like a good example of fitting for what you're trying to do. I like this really, really niche market of handmade fishing lures. And in order to find all the little tiny businesses that those are made from, because they only make them in small batches, maybe 10 at a time, and there's 600 people trying to get them. But to find all those things, I go almost entirely through Instagram, because they'll post a picture of a particular bait and it's like, oh man, I have to have that. And I'll link straight to their sales site through there to get to that item.
Their own personal sales?
Yeah, yeah. So like whether it's their own personal website, an Etsy page, anything like that, that's how I find things like that, is through Instagram. So imagery.
And I don't know much about this, but I know that there are some people that have products, let's say those types of fishing lures, and do you have any idea how they get their product to Amazon?
Yeah, so the Amazon third-party seller program, Amazon Marketplace. Actually, Amazon just released their annual letter to shareholders, and third-party sales at Amazon are exceeding Amazon's internal sales now, which they're very happy about. They're empowering others to sell through the Amazon platform at their. Amazon's still making money at it as well, obviously, but it's a very strong and powerful platform for.
So it's a
for
third-party platform.
Well, it's through Amazon, but Amazon is allowing third-party sellers to sell through their own platform, and it's been so successful that more than 50% of what's sold on Amazon is coming from a third party now. But that's just like an Etsy. It's an e-commerce platform. It's just a channel. It's not necessarily a marketing outlet.
Now, let's say that I have a store on Main Street. It's a retail store. And I've decided to finally work on a marketing plan. And I want to get more millennials into my store. Can you give 5 or 6 tips of either social platforms to target, ways, because we know that you're not reading the newspaper, you're probably not watching local news, you're probably not watching or listening to the radio stations in the region. So how can I, as a small business, connect with you and share my message?
So we're assuming it's a retail store
Yes.
that needs to increase foot traffic
Yes.
and it's not selling online.
Yeah, I'm on Main Street, USA.
Okay.
I think a great place to start is something like Instagram. People are going to already be downtown taking pictures, posting pictures of, in each of our cities, people are trying to really update their downtowns and their main streets. So people are out there taking pictures and posting that. And so using your hashtags for downtown and then the city and, pushing out pictures of where you are in relation to all of those beautiful things that are happening. And then getting the impact of, then you move it into the store and how the different things that you have there and pushing that way. That's one way to start.
I guess 2 other points would be, one good piece of news is that it's cheaper to use these social platforms than it would to be these traditional marketing methods. So even if you spend $50 to $100 targeting a niche group on social media, you're going to get more traction than you would in these traditional media places. But another thing is you really need to include some sort of call to action within your post. Put something like, which one of your friends would like this, or who would you bring with you, or those types of questions for them. It entices the viewers to tag their friends on their post, and then they're going to see your post and maybe even like your page so that you have more of an audience.
We got an online question, and this is from our friend Karen Hester with Cranberry Lane and
Yes.
Southern Churn, which I could eat a Southern Churn ice cream. What is the best way to get followers quickly on to say the Southern Churn and it being hip, cool ice cream and candy store? Do I try to find local influencers to help with that message?
Yeah, Karen, you can start with Matt Bolus because he's your biggest fan. Everything we talk about, you should see what Karen's doing. You absolutely have the opportunity in your local market to find influencers and brand ambassadors for your products, and I would encourage that through some sort of referral program or referral network, or just encourage them. Most people, if they believe in your product, are going to do that for you, especially if you ask them to.
Having a sign at the point of sale counter that just says, use this hashtag and share a picture of your product. That's a real easy way, a call to action there without being real pushy, but when they like your product, they're going to share it because they want other people to go there too. They want other people to experience it.
And you can incentivize that through even some sort of contesting. It's amazing what kind of effort people will put out for something that's fairly small. Like LaCroix just did one where you posted a picture of a can of LaCroix along with a drawing of it that you've made, and the winner got like a shipment of LaCroix, which can't cost very much, but it was very popular on social media.
And she did say that, yes, Matt is my boy.
Yep.
So for millennials, ranking the social media of importance to them would be Instagram first, Twitter.
I think
think
it's
you would-
all over the board.
I think you would get a different answer from me than you would from Sarah, just because of the different generations. I'm more on Facebook than the others, just because I'm at the top end of the age bracket for millennials. Sarah's more on Instagram.
And then my brother is just a year younger than me, and he's Twitter. So I don't know if there's a real good answer for that.
Katie's in the middle. She's more on Snapchat.
I thought Snapchat was more Gen Z.
They've got all kinds
I
of
think
new
it
ones
bleeds
now.
into Gen Z, yeah.
I'm just special.
But I think it's important to have a presence on all of them.
That's exhausting.
It
It is.
But it's also important to know, especially if you're advertising on social, and going back to your Main Street question, Sandy, that Facebook, Google, all of these people know more about us than we know about ourselves. They're watching our online habits. We call it the digital breadcrumbs. They're seeing what we're doing, what we're interested in. They are identifying our interests before we may have even identified our interests. And so with us and our agency services, when we do a targeted display campaign or social media advertising campaign, we're able to really drill down and make sure we're targeting the market that we feel is going to be most effective. And part of that is also including social media. Which platforms are we going to advertise on? Facebook is the cheapest to advertise on, but it may not be the right fit for someone who's selling on Etsy. Maybe Pinterest would be better for them. It's a much higher cost, but we're talking about the cost of a conversion, not necessarily just the cost of an impression.
Is print, text, or video get your attention the most?
Video.
Yeah.
Video has an 80%. It's on the statistics from our previous presentation. I think video has an 80% higher engagement rate than text and photo combined.
I think ranked it would be video, photo, text.
Yep. In fact, there's industry buzz that social media will end up being 100% video in the next few years.
I think you may have just answered part of my question. I live with my millennial son, and with your statistic about millennials spending 25 hours a week online, I find that with my son and some of his friends, they're a bit conversationally challenged. That is, getting their attention span for more than 2 seconds is difficult.
Yep.
So what I'm hearing is a way to get their attention would be video. Because it's got to be something very crisp and they can relate to very quickly. You've got a very narrow window.
Right, and you don't, you can have long videos if it's really going to keep you engaged all the way through, but even short 15 seconds, 10-second videos are going to grab your attention, get the point across really quickly, and you'll keep their attention that way.
It's movement in general. It doesn't have to even be a video of people. If you created a video ad, it's really just as you scroll through and you're seeing the same monotonous stuff over and over again. Then all of a sudden your screen moves and you've made it something interesting and creative. That's important. And you mentioned crisp. If you mean professional, I don't think that's necessarily the case. Authentic is more important. And that may mean it needs to be professional depending on your industry. But if it's just you showing this neat new feature of this special roof that repels 80% of the sunlight or something, and you can show that in a 30-second video with your iPhone, that's perfectly fine.
I think one thing to keep in mind is your message really needs to be apparent in the first 5 to 10 seconds of that video, though, as well. So that if they do only see it for a couple seconds, you've at least told them something about your brand.
probably, but I don't, sometimes you don't even know the right questions to ask because you're not that savvy with certain social media platforms. What do you think about LinkedIn as far as LinkedIn? Do you think that's more of a promote your business, a find a job, it doesn't seem like it's much of a social networking.
I don't really see LinkedIn as a social network at all. It's professional network. I'm going to go on there to look for professional tips. I'm going to go on there to look for people to try and bring into the company that are going to help us, those kind of things. If I see someone posting different things about their day on LinkedIn, I'm scrolling very quickly past it because it's the wrong message on the wrong platform.
You think it's a good platform to find a job and find employers, or say you do think it is?
I think so.
It certainly is, and I'd like to add in though, and this will just show how millennials differ. I've actually reduced my personal social networking almost down to nothing. I do a lot of social media for business, obviously, in my role, but for my personal life, I'm really not on social media, and we're finding that more and more people who are getting disgusted or overwhelmed, or whatever the right terminology is, with Facebook and Instagram and the bombardment of here's my dinner and here's my kids' play and all of this stuff that's just cluttering. We're seeing that migration over to LinkedIn because it's not the right platform for my kids' play and my senior pictures and I got a new car. It's for more streamlined content and information that's for a different market. So at High Road, we do post. It is certainly more for business, and we always promote it in a B2B scenario. But we're seeing more and more on the B2C line too, because there's a migration of people who are over the overwhelming nature of social media and are looking for something as an alternative. I'm one of those. I spend more time on LinkedIn than I do on Facebook.
I'm gonna
Snapchat.
throw a loop for a second. My last blog that I wrote for the agency was about LinkedIn, and the title is, Should LinkedIn Be a Part of Your Marketing Strategy? And I'm going to share a couple statistics with you, and then we can include the link to the blog for you to read more later with the other ads that we said we would send. But here's the first sentence. LinkedIn recently released a guide for social media managers with updated stats about the platform and offered heavy hints that brands should consider increased advertising efforts on their platform. Here's 3 statistics. 40% of members visit LinkedIn each day. 45% of all social media traffic to a company's homepage comes from LinkedIn. 60% increase in comments, likes, and shares year on year. So I think that there is some growth in LinkedIn, but I also think it kind of depends on your business. I think that it would probably lend more to a home improvement type of business, but probably not to a Main Street sort of business. So I think then again, we go back to, does it fit into your strategy?
So do you think Snapchat, is that something that is appealing as far as business is concerned, or is that more personal fun?
It's a little more personal and fun, but with your business, if you're a festival or something like that, then that is a really good way to get that out there. Things like filters. You can have a specific filter for your event that comes up. So when people are there and interacting and going to your event, they can use that filter on their Snapchat picture and post it to their story. People will see that and want to go there too, because it's free marketing for you, or a very low price marketing for you, of the people that are coming are marketing for you with that.
So you can create your own filter? Is that what
You can.
It does get a little expensive to geofence a certain area, and I think even like a room this size is still a good amount of money. So it is an expensive strategy.
So I have a question. As a small business owner, how many
I would probably look at it more as a monthly thing. And then again, it kind of goes back to your strategy. A lot of small businesses, like a Main Street boutique, it would be just as simple as finding a piece that you want to highlight for that day and take a picture of it and send out a message each day. But some other businesses, like the home improvement, I think it would be more beneficial to sit down for an hour or 2 hours each month and just schedule posts for that entire month.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, as usual, we get great information that now we'll all sit down and try to figure out how to use today. Seems like the more baby boomer you are, the harder it gets. But we do appreciate you coming and helping us today try to learn more about marketing to millennials. And we will have a class in 2 weeks. Sandy, what's the name of the class in 2 weeks?
The life cycle of a sale,
Life cycle of a sale.
May 15th.
So, thank you very much, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank y'all.